As web developers, we all know that image sliders are common across several websites. But not all designs we see every day. So in today's episode, we're going to pick a random design and we're going to build it from scratch. All we need for this project to be done is HTML and CSS. And of course, our VS Code.
Oh shit, here we go again.
First, let's start by showing you a review of how this page is going to look like. I structured the skeleton of this page using HTML. I got this as the output. Then I move on to add flesh to it using CSS. Then I had this. And for the final result, this is what I'm having. Watch till the end of this video because I'm about to spill everything out. And if you want the source code to this project, the link is in my description box or check my bio. If you're ready to level up your skills, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. So here in the code editor, we have our basic HTML tags here, which we have linked the HTML file to the CSS file, and we give it a title of image galleries here. So in the CSS file, we have an empty file, so we haven't done anything, and we have a folder called images, which contains our list of images here. So back in the HTML file here, in the body tag, we're going to create a div with a class name of container, which this container is going to be the whole body of the page here. Within this container, we're going to have a div with a class name of slider, which this slider is going to be the body of our image slider. So within this slider, we're going to insert an input with a type of radio. For the name, we're going to give it to have a radio, and for the ID, we're going to make it to be R1. So we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it 5 times. So we're going to have 5 different radio buttons, which we're going to go back to the second radio button and change the ID to R2. To the third one, we're going to give it to be R3, R4, and R5. Now below these radio buttons, we're going to create a div with a class name of slider. Within this slider, we're going to insert an image inside, which we're going to select image 1 as the first image. So each slider is going to have a single image, and we're going to be having 5 different sliders. So we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it 5 times. So we're going to go back to the second image and change it to be image 2. We're going to select image 2, and for the third image, we're going to select image 3 as the third image, for the fourth one also, and for the fifth one. Now, in our browser, this is actually what we're having as the output here. Our radio buttons and our images are here. So now, in the HTML file, just below our last slide, we're going to create a div with a class name of btn. And this btn is going to contain our navigation buttons, which we're going to use them for navigating through our images here. So we're going to use label for that. So we're going to create a label and we're going to copy it and paste it 5 times. We have 5 radio buttons, 5 images, and now we have 5 labels. For our radio buttons, each radio button has an ID of R1, R2, R3. So now we're going to connect it with our label, which we're going to put R1 here, R2, R3, R4, and R5 here. Now our radio buttons and our labels are now connected here. So now we're done with the HTML structure here. So we need to add flesh to it using CSS. So in the CSS file here, so the first thing we do in the CSS file, we're going to give it a universal styling, which we're going to make the margin to be 0 and the padding is going to be 0. Then we're going to give it a box sizing to be border box. Now we're going to target the body of the page. So first thing we do, we're going to give the body to have a background image. But before that, we want the background image to have a dark layer on it. So we're going to use linear gradient for the dark layer. So for the first 2 colors of the linear gradient, we're going to give them to be black colors, which we're going to drop the opacity so that the black colors will be a little bit transparent for our background image to be viewed. So when we're done with the linear gradient colors, we're going to insert a comma and put URL and go to our images folder and select our first image to be our background image. Just after that, we're going to give it a no repeat, which is going to have the image not to repeat multiple times. So now below it, we're going to give it background size, which we're going to make it to be cover. And for the background position, we're going to make it to be 50%, 50%, which will focus on the center of the image. Now in the HTML file here, we're going to target our container, which is holding our slider. So back to the CSS, we're going to target the container. So the first thing we do for the container, we're going to give the container a width, which we want it to consume 900 pixels. Then we're going to give it a height. For the height, we're going to make it to consume 450 pixels. Then we're going to give it a margin, which we're going to make it to have a 30 pixel space from the top and bottom, and for the left and right is going to be auto. Now this is going to center the container in the middle of the body.
Are we ready? Can we handle it?
You guys, I'm too chip.
This laptop is f***ing crazy.
This thing is fast.
Super fast.
One.
You want silence?
You can't even hear it because it's quiet as a mouse.
This MacBook Pro is supercharged by the M4 family of chips, which means...
I'm excited.
This is cool.
Oh, whoa.
Wow.
Are you a creative professional, a developer, or just someone that admires technology? Well, look no further, because today I bring to you the MacBook Pro. This sleek powerhouse is not just a laptop. It's a gateway to unparalleled performance, stunning visuals, and an ecosystem designed for productivity. The MacBook Pro has an all-day battery life, so you can be productive wherever you go. It has a magic keyboard with comfortable keys and a responsive trackpad, which make typing a breeze. It has a brand name of Apple, the model name is MacBook Pro, and the screen size is 14.2 inches. For the color, it depends on what you want. The CPU model is Apple M4, and it has a 24GB RAM space with an operating system of Mac OS. If you want more information about this system, the link is in the description box. It will lead you to the Amazon. So actually, this video is not a sponsored video, but an affiliate. Whenever you click and purchase something, I get commission out of it, which is also a way of supporting my channel also. So feel free to check out more information about this system. So with that, now let's head back to our tutorial. Now for the border radius, because we want the edges of the container to be curved, we're going to make it to be 10 pixels, which we want the container to have a box shadow, which will make it to be 00, 10 pixel blurred with a dark color. We want anything that overflows outside the container, we're going to make it to be hidden. So with overflow hidden, it's going to do that. We're going to make it to be position of relative, because we're going to adjust our navigation buttons based on position of absolute. So from our browser, this is actually the output we're having. You can see our navigation buttons, our container, and our image here. So now back to the HTML. Now we're going to target our slider, which is holding our radio buttons, our images, and our navigation buttons here. So in the CSS here, we're going to target the slider here, which is .container, and we're going to give it a .slider. So the first thing we want, we're going to give the slider to have a width, which we're going to make it to consume a space of 500%. And for the height, we're going to make it to be 100%, which is going to be 100% of the container. Now we're going to make it to be display of flex, meaning our radio buttons, our images, and our navigation buttons are going to be flexed now. Which after that, we're going to target the slide, as you can see from the HTML, which is holding now each of our images here. So we're going to target the slide. So the first thing we want for a slide, we're going to give it a width, which we want it to consume 20% of its parent container, which is the slider. Now we're going to give it a transition of 2 seconds, because we want when the images are changing, we want them to change smoothly. Now in the HTML here, we're going to target now the radio buttons here, where we go back to our CSS and we're going to target the inputs. So the first thing we're going to give it a display of none, because for now we don't want it to appear. So now we're going to target now the images itself. So we're going to give it .slider, .slide, and we're going to target the image, which we're going to give the image to have a weight of 900 pixels, meaning it's going to consume the same size as the container. And we're going to give it a height of 100%, and it's going to consume 100% of the container. Now from our browser, this is actually the output we're having. Now as you can see here, small, we're structuring now this image slider. Now we're going to target the buttons, which contains our 5 labels here. So we're going to target the btn that is holding now our labels. So back to the CSS, we're going to give it a .btn. So the first thing we do, we're going to give the btn to have a width which is going to be 300 pixels. And for the height, we're going to make the height to be auto, so it's going to adjust itself based on the content. Now we're going to give it a position of absolute here, which we're going to make the bottom to be 20 pixels space from the bottom, and from the left we're going to make it to be 35%. We're going to make the items in the btn to be display of flex, and we're going to give a space between them, which is going to be 2 rem. Now we're going to target the label itself, which the first thing we do, we're going to give it a width and a height. For the width, the first thing we do, we're going to give it to consume a width of 25 pixels. And for the height also is going to have a height of 25 pixels. Because we want it to be in a cycle, we're going to give it a border radius, which is going to be 50%. Now we're going to give it to have a background of transparent. For the border, we're going to make it to be 2 pixels to have a solid and a white color. We're going to give it a cursor of pointer, and for the transition, we're going to make it to be 0.8 seconds. We want when you hover on the button, we want some changes to happen, so we're going to give it a background color to have a white color. Now from our browser, this is actually what we're having here as the output. Now we're going to target now our input buttons, which each input button has an ID. So for the first input button, we're going to give it a checked. We're going to write check here. So back to the CSS, we're going to target the first input button, which has an ID of R1. So we give it an R1 and we write check here. So now we're going to target the first image. So in the CSS here, we're going to go to class name for the first image and give it a S1. It's still the same class name, but it's having an additional class name. So we're going to go back here and put .s1. So the first thing we want the first image to move, when you click on the first label, we want it to move 0% from the left. Now we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it the second time, which we're going to change it to R2 and put minus 20% space from the left. Now when you click on the second button, it's going to move to the next image. Now we're going to paste it again, which we're going to change it to R3, and for the margin left is going to be minus 40%. We're going to paste it again, change it to R4, and the margin left is going to be minus 60%. Paste it again, change it to R5, which is the fifth image. Margin left is going to be minus 80%. Now, when we're done with that, when you click on the next button, it moves to the next image. When you click, it moves to the next image, and that's how it's going to be navigating through the images. With that, we have come to the end of this tutorial. If you want the source code to this project that we just built, I'll put a link in the description box, which will take you to my Patreon. The code is there. The code to my past project is also there, and for the future project that I'm also going to work on, inshallah, I'll put the code there. If you want to join us in exploring the world of web development, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you have enjoyed this video, please like this video. Then with that, see you in my next video, and thanks for watching.